Hey, everybody. Just to let you know, this podcast may contain some adult or possibly offensive language.
No nudity, though.
Unless you're thinking about naked people.
The first time we played a show and we were so excited, we all wear Puma suits and do-rags. I don't understand how we did not get killed that night.
But we're trying to get through the crowd, and there's all these dudes calling us menudo.
What's good, everybody? This is Stretch Armstrong.
And my name is Bobbito Garcia. Together we are the hosts of What's Good with Stretch and Bobbito. Today we have the Beastie Boys.
The what?
The Beastie Boys.
The Beastie Boys.
We are joined by two of the members. Unfortunately, one of them passed away, Adam Yauch, a.k.a. MCA. In 2012, he died of cancer. And moving forward, Mike D and Adam Horovitz, a.k.a. Ad Rock, are releasing a book, the Beastie Boys book, and it commemorates their memories as a group, which include MCA. I'm so excited to talk about the Beasties because, honestly, like one of my best friends in life, we connected because I was at a Wesleyan University dorm room. I didn't know who he was. He was a complete stranger. And he threw on a Beasties 12-inch. And then, I was like, oh, he's cool. We can hang out. And then, boom, I want to become the best man at his wedding. The Beastie Boys have been a conduit for a lot of friendships, worldwide.
For real. Yeah, my intro to the Beasties was more personal. My sister, who's a year and a half older than I am, she was hanging out with the Beastie Boys downtown.
Word.
In the early 80s, and she actually would bring them to our house uptown and got to meet them like that. One day they came over with an actual record. It was Cookie Puss, which is, of course, a sort of proto-hip-hop record. They were still a band, making just noise.
It was bugged out.
A few years later, I was coming home from a party in a taxi. I'm in high school, hadn't seen those dudes in 3 years. And I hear the Beastie Boys on the radio. I was like, wow, those guys really did it.
The radio.
And, of course, they would continue to do it in huge ways for, the 90s and beyond.
Yeah.
Before we get into the interview, we thought we'd do something a little bit different. We know how much the Beastie Boys mean to everybody. So we thought we'd give our listeners a chance to talk about what the Beasties meant to them, share their memories. So we opened up the Stretch and Bobbito What's Good hotline.
I love it.
So we're going to dive into that montage right about now.
I'm just a white dude in my 40s. Love the Beasties. They've brought so much creativity to the picture, and it gave white people the ability to have flavor, which isn't easy to do.
Listen, man, I'm a 24-year-old black kid from North Philadelphia, recognizing the Def Jam logo as a young boy, trying to figure out why all these Caucasians are on the cover. All it takes is a listen, and it answers all your questions for you, man. My father steered me in the right direction, picking up the Beastie Boys.
I am a feminist because of the Beastie Boys. I love them so much that I'm now in an all-female Beastie Boy tribute band called She's Crafty.
I mean, I started listening to jazz and Latin music and funk and soul music because of them.
When I was an impressionable 16-year-old, I went to my first Tibetan Freedom concert. Fast forward some years, got involved with Students for a Free Tibet, and that further pushed me to go to law school. Still a lawyer today, and I like to tell people that the reason I'm a lawyer is because of the Beastie Boys.
To me, the Beastie Boys are the shit because the whole mashup of them being white boys and hip hop being more of color, I always just thought that was dope. So it's kind of like just New York. That's what the Beastie Boys is to me, and they're timeless.
Just wanted to say much love to Adam and Mike, the Beastie Boys. And of course, Adam, MCA, Yauch, much love to him as well. Rest in power.
Thank you so much, Adam, Mike, and Adam. Thank you for everything, and rest in peace, Yauch.
I'm very grateful for what the Beastie Boys have done for the culture and for kids like me all around America.
Much love to those brothers, Beastie Boys, forever.
Hope you enjoyed that as much as we did, and thank you for calling. We should do that more often, Stretch, I think.
We're going to do that.
Coming up, the Beastie Boys, Mike Diamond and Adam Horovitz.
The following message comes from our sponsor, Capital One. Would you know if someone applied for credit using your Social Security number? If not, listen to Joe Whitchurch, head of the CreditWise app, talk about the new SSN tracker his team recently released.
While identity fraud is something everyone needs to be worried about, we want to make it easy and seamless for them to become aware of anybody attempting to use their identity without their knowledge or permission.
CreditWise is free for everyone, whether you're a Capital One customer or not. You can find CreditWise in your app or Play Store now.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. In 1980, with a few $1,000s in used dairy equipment, Ken Grossman founded Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. Ken's award-winning ales propelled him from home brewer to craft brewer. Today, Ken and his family still own 100% of the company, one of the most successful independent craft breweries in America. More at sierranevada.com. I'd like to say something that I've wanted to say for over 20 years. Uh-oh. We have the Beastie Boys, Adam Horovitz and Mike Diamond.
Word up.
What's up?
Hi guys.
Pleasure to be here.
Hello.
I should say welcome to What's Good.
We're Stretch and Bobbito. The two of you are aware of our show back in the 90s, but for some reason out of the 50...
we never went through
the 50
ever
mutual friends that we have.
No, that's right. I'm not upset about it that we were never on the show. Is that what you're getting at?
No, I'm not upset about it either.
No. I'm not. I mean, are you mad at us?
No.
Are we mad at you?
No, neither. It's just
we're mad.
We're just
mad.
I don't know why we didn't go on there.
Yeah.
Why didn't we go on there?
Well, by that point, you were living
we were probably like
in L.A.
We were on some L.A. stuff, and then on some like, you a star now.
No, we were 100% in New York. We were in New York because I taped your show, and then one of the tapes I sampled and we put on a record.
Oh, okay, fact.
Lord Sear.
Lord Sear's beatboxing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yo. Hello. Yo. Hello. 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 Yo. Hello. Hello.
So thank you for taping our show.
Did you ever get any clearance for that, or is that something that...
No one contacted us.
Pretty sure.
I don't think anyone had to contact us. I mean, whatever. We were geeked out. That
you credited the show though. That was huge. That's all we wanted. Listen, we weren't doing anything for money back then.
Not that bad.
We weren't smart. It was all free. We were just we were hip hop volunteers in the 90s.
It's a good technology story to think that like Adam listening to the radio, recording the show on cassette, and then sampling that with like SP1200, and then that gets transferred to like a 2-inch tape and gets on a record. It's like it's a lot of steps of. I don't know, kids. I'm old. That's a lot of technology. I'm just saying.
Well, let's jump in. Stretch and I were from Uptown, but we were very foreign to the Brooklyn experience of the 70s and 80s. And there you both are, entrenched in multiple communities, including the punk community, which I think, I have to say, most of my friends that love the Beastie Boys, I don't even think they're aware of the era prior. So Michelle, our producer, she has a little clip that she's going to share with you. So that's a little clip of the two of you in the early punk era. The punk group didn't include you initially.
Right. Me, Adam Horovitz.
So it was, Adam Horovitz. So it was originally, Yauch was the one who like wanted to start Beastie Boys as a band. I actually was in another little side band, but Yauch was like, okay, let's do this. Like hardcore started happening in New York. I was going to play drums, but then nobody wanted to sing, so I ended up having to do that. I still harbor resentment for having to do that. I think our first gig ever, this dude, Dave Parsons, who had a record store downtown called Rat Cage. So he came to this show at that place where we practiced. It was Yauch's birthday, and he's like, hey, what do you guys think about making a record? And we were like, but keep in mind, like record, that meant that we recorded on a 4-track. It's not, I just want to make it clear, it was not a big accomplishment. I mean, it's big when you're 15. It is kind of big, right? Sure. But John Barry, whose place it was and who was a guitar player, he got basically tired of it. And then Adam had a band called The Young and the Useless. I always try to explain to people in New York City, even though there's millions of people, it's like whatever you're into, it's actually the small scene. Especially at that time, it didn't matter what you were into. It's like nobody's Snapchatting with each other like, hey, I'm going to do this. You had to go to the spot where
No
the
doubt.
thing was happening
No doubt.
to find your friends that were also into the same thing.
Yep.
So actually, that record store, like Rat Cage on that block, was like that's where we go to meet up to be like, okay, what's happening? And then you go to the show or the club or whatever. So anyway, Adam was like one of those people.
So what was your sensibilities for hip hop as opposed to the punk in that space before you even splash as a rap group?
Like as soon as we started hearing rap 12 inches, like the first I think mix show I ever heard was a tape from the Zulu Beat show.
Africa Islam.
Africa Islam.
Yeah, sure.
Africa Islam in stereo. Next week, listeners, we will be on from 1 to 3 o'clock on the dot.
Exactly. And it was literally mind-blowing, right? And then, but coming from punk rock, it was kind of like that was music that we could love, that we knew nobody else would mess with. It's such a small circle of people. Like, think about the number of kids at that time that were into hip-hop or whatever. It's not some huge scene of thousands of
No,
people.
certainly not. And in a private school.
Yeah,
probably
exactly. In private school, we were the two kids.
Yeah, I've got really specific memories of first getting into hip hop, like the moment when I discovered it. You know, you mentioned HBI, and of course, mix shows were so important to all of our lives in terms of being exposed to new music in the hip hop realm. How did you discover HBI? Like, who was it? Like your man that knew about this mix show? Because you were still pretty young at that point.
Definitely. No, I was really young. I just remember it was this kid Raymond Rosado who had it. He came in. He had a tape that kind of like similar story. He taped it off the radio because you'd have to be listening at the time.
Was he Puerto Rican?
So I'm going to implicate him as being a Puerto Rican.
Mm-hmm.
You
see the importance of the Boricua connection
That's
in
right.
the Beastie Boys history.
What? I'm stamping it. You know.
My older brother heard a record and bought a 12-inch when we were kids called The Adventures of Super Rhymes.
Jimmy Spicer.
By Jimmy Spicer.
Yes, I'm one of a kind. I'm Super Rhymes, and I'd like to say hello. As since I'm on the mic and I'm ready to rock, oh, this is how it goes. Yes, I rock so good, I rock so well. I'll ring ding dang, a ding ding a dang, baby. I'll ring your bell. Yes,
And we used to just listen to it all the time. And
that was a long record too.
Real long. Two sides of just
12
rapping.
minutes.
It just and you fade him out rapping. He just fades out still rapping. And so we would just go to a record store on 8th Street and any new 12-inch, like that's when, you know, I'm not saying it doesn't now, but record labels were a thing where it was like a 12-inch. Like if Sugar Hill had a new 12-inch, you'd get the new one just because it was Sugar Hill or Enjoy or whatever the labels were. And so that's how we got into it.
I met you at the Roxanne premiere, and when I spoke to you, I got a chance to tell you that I remember you coming to my house when I was in 8th grade because you guys were friends with Lisa Kirk and my sister, who's Justine Bartos, and you brought Cookie Puss to the house one day, and I stole the record from my sister because I was obsessed. I was playing drums. I was obsessed with music, and
Wait, was that a regular occurrence that you would just drop off your 12-inch to friends of yours?
No, this is the day.
It was like a marketing thing that I would go from apartment to apartment.
You know, we had a street-level promotions company at
As
the
I
time.
remember it, that was the day the record came out, and you guys were excited about it, right?
Come on.
Very
you know,
excited.
when you're 16 or whatever, how old were you?
Give or take.
17. Well, 16, 17, you're in high school and your record comes out. You're like so excited. You carry that shit with you everywhere.
I probably had boxes.
You hold it over your head on the subway. You're so excited.
Yeah, I mean, for me though, as a music obsessed kid playing drums and whatnot, buying records, like to know actual human beings that made an actual record was like just colossally huge for me. I mean, you guys are the first people I ever met that actually made music to sell in a record store. Anyway, the record was Cookie Puss, Beastie Revolution. That record is so quirky and bugged out. What went into the making of that? And what was your mentality? What were you trying to do with that record?
Well, what had happened was...
Uh-oh. ...
No, we went...
I mean, you weren't rapping on it yet. But there
there
were signs of things that were coming.
Adam Yauch's family friend had worked at a recording studio, and he let us come into the studio for 2 nights for, I thought for free, but Mike had pointed out it was $100.
We had to pay him some cash, or pay somebody some cash money.
Some 16-year-old dollars.
Yeah, no, but that's like a lot. I remember like bringing an envelope of money, and I'm not, it's not like I was like nervous, especially, and the studio's in Midtown. I'm like nervous walking around with an envelope of money.
I love a kid with an envelope of money. It's funny. But so we went to record these songs, and they were like, we recorded them quickly, and they were bad, really, like pretty bad.
No, I'd say really bad.
They were really bad songs, like kind of punk, kind of like they were goth. I don't even know what it was.
Yeah, we didn't know what.
Sucked.
We didn't just think of like we were a hardcore group, and we know we wanted to do something different, but we didn't know what we were doing. And really, we loved hip hop, but we weren't like we didn't know how to make hip hop yet.
Oh, it's in the book. This book that we have coming out. I'm plugging the book.
Look at that. Professional.
October 30th. When you're a kid, at least at that time in New York. But New York kids, you can't really like embrace something too much. You got to be kind of laid back and cool about it, like no matter how much you love it. Like, so we loved rap music and we loved reggae music, but like we wouldn't actually try to do it. We would just try to like make fun of it in this, not make fun of it, but like do it in a funny way. And so after we recorded these songs that we were like kind of terrible, we loved this song called Buffalo Gals by Malcolm McLaren's song. We loved that song, but we wouldn't want to make something like that, so we made fun of that song instead of being like, oh, we like it.
Also, Buffalo Gals was like one of the hip-hop songs that somehow actually you'd hear it on the radio, like not outside of a mix show.
Sure.
Like you'd hear it daytime, like dudes would be walking down the street playing Kiss FM, BLS, or whatever. So outside of Mr. Magic or whatever, you'd hear.
Round the outside, round the outside.
I don't even understand how this English guy made this had this, and just like comes over, goes to somebody. Who was it? It was like
the Supreme Team, right?
Freddie or Michael Holman. I forget who it is that takes the credit for taking him up to the Bronx to something, and he's like, okay, I'm going to make something here. But and usually like it should be all wrong. Like he should have made a record that sucked. Right? Because he's this English guy who comes over and he's just seeing all this cool stuff, and it should be whack, but he makes an incredible record.
Yeah. So we made that crazy record. It was like we had all this time because we had recorded these bad songs quickly. So we're here, let's record some other stuff. So we like basically just made some music, and it was like we made prank phone calls and I don't know, just fucking around. And that dumb fucking around stuff was way better than the stuff we meant to record. So we're like, well, let's put this out.
Well, then it's a short amount of time, though, when you're now mastering drum machines, making beats for LL, and then, of course, coming out, as the Beastie Boys on Def Jam. So how did that transformation take place?
Well, if you think about it, when you're our age, 2 years is nothing. Like, you're like, oh, shit, that was 2 years ago? But when you're 16, 2 years, it's forever. And you obsess over everything you do. Unfortunately, like homework in school wasn't the thing that I was obsessing over. It was, music and making music and how to and drum machines. And we met Rick Rubin, and Rick Rubin had a drum machine. So I would just cut school and go to his dorm room.
Yeah, it wasn't even a house; it was a dorm room at Weinstein Dormitories at NYU.
And just figure it out. Oh, and that song, Cookie Puss, I was at a friend's house, at a friend's apartment back then, and I heard that B-side of Cookie Puss on TV. It was a TV ad for British Airways, and they just used our music.
Good evening and welcome to Beastie Chinese Restaurant.
And so we got a little money from that, and from that money, I went.
That was the first money we ever got, as a band.
Back then,
yeah,
it was on the fucking TV in 1983.
Crazy. Wow.
And so we each, we got a little, Exactly, you hear that on TV.
Another envelope with cash.
Yeah. And so I took an envelope.
Bigger envelope. Then we were like, oh, wow.
No, I took an envelope of cash to the used music store because I wanted to buy this Rickenbacker guitar. And next to the thing, on the counter was a drum machine for $250, the same money that I had in my pocket in the envelope for the guitar.
Wait, which drum machine, Adam? So
no, it's like, fuck it, I have a guitar already. I'm going to get this drum machine because it looks really cool, and I don't know anybody. I hadn't met Rick yet. I was like, I don't know anybody who has a drum machine, so I bought the drum machine, and it was an 808, and so I bought that in whenever it came out, 83, 84. for $250.
$250.
And then that drum machine was the in-house drum machine for Chung King and for our records.
But all those records, like not just
Run
our
DMC.
record, but like Peter Piper, all the Def Jam 808 records.
Wow.
Well, it's like the foundation for so much
Like
music
Paul
now,
Revere,
too.
new style. Yeah, exactly. It's still 808. Interestingly, it's still foundational.
But I'm curious. You're crossing out of these spaces, the punk community, your private school education, and you're coming into hip hop space, which in the mid '80s is predominantly people of color, African American, Afro Caribbean, Latino. Certainly not a lot of white kids. And what was your interest to sort of like become a part of this space?
Our talent and skill as rappers, clearly. It's the first thing that you notice. I don't understand the laugh. That's a laugh button? What's going on? I don't know. I don't know what we were thinking. We just really loved rap and wanted to be rappers. Is that weird?
No, not at all.
Well,
I
think it was weird, but it just didn't cross our minds that it was weird. Then I think when we started to make rap music, and we first made like our first record with Rick, which was not very good. Rock Hard and Beastie Groove.
Beastie Groove is
I mean,
is
I'm
crazy.
doing myself a disservice by even mentioning it. But
I love Beastie Groove.
I don't even remember how it goes.
About to cough up his cappuccino.
Hit the button though.
Yauch kills that record. Beastie Groove, my opinion.
Wait, when he does the speed rapping part?
Yeah.
That's me.
Chill.
I probably said the word chill about 1,000 times. That's how bad it is.
Chilly chill.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, then that was when the first time then we went up, like Adam was talking about this earlier, we played a show and at the Encore, opening up for Curtis Blow, the Encore in Queens. And
wow.
We didn't know. We were like, okay, this is what we love doing. We're so excited. We all wear Puma suits and fucking do-rags. And we go, and people in the Encore are looking at us like, I don't understand how we did not get killed that night. I really don't. Because if I were in the audience, I would have killed us. Like, it's really?
So you were excited to do the show, but did you get on stage and that excitement turned to horror?
We go there in a limo in matching Puma suits with do-rags.
The limo was Rick's idea. I'm blaming that on Rick Rubin.
Because, big timers, driving limos. And we get out, and there's like 100 kids out front, and they'd already like ripped the gates off the place. It was some crazy thing.
Yeah, they had
small.
the metal gates down because people had already bum rushed the doors.
But we're trying to get through the crowd, and there's all these dudes calling us Menudo. and they're just saying all this shit to us. And then and we get on stage, and then right as we do our little song, they turn all the house lights on, which were fluorescent supermarket lights.
After that, we realized, like, all right, the Puma suits went away. Like, we realized like, all right, we had to just find our own thing. We love rap music, but we had to find our own thing within that if we were ever actually going to do it. So.
We're not going to be Run DMC. It's just not going to happen.
But in failure, we got somewhere.
So then you were part of the illustrious Def Jam family at a time when Def Jam was like,
Let's put it in context. I mean, their first four
of course radio
releases, LL,
85,
Beasties,
excuse me, yes,
Slick Rick, Public Enemy.
Yeah.
Each group is like breaking records, platinum. Def Jam was like as big as you could imagine.
Sure. So what was it like being a part of the Def Jam family during that time?
I look back at it in terms of I'm grateful to have been part of the excitement of LL puts out I Need a Beat. Then LL starts working on his first album, working on our record. And all of a sudden Rick starts working with Run DMC, who at that point were like our favorite group of all time. Because in terms of hip hop, they were the only ones who made like a stripped down, hard, real rap record with Sucker MC. So it's like the fact that we were even around all this, and all of a sudden we were going in the studio, we could see Run DMC record. We made Paul Revere, and Run comes running up and he's like, I got this idea for you. The fact that was all happening, it was like a crazy dream.
With Rick and Russell, I mean, we're punk rockers really, and we could say negative things about Rick and Russell and our relationship and all of that stuff, but really for us at that time, we were making like prank phone call records and shit. Do you know what I mean? Like meeting them, and they took it real serious. And Russell had like a global plan for everything, and Rick was dead serious about music and polishing certain sounds and all that stuff. And we fed off of that. I mean, it was like exciting. Do you know what I mean?
We did feed off of it. Everybody was making there were so many good records being made so close to each other that if you're not on your game, then you're out. You can't be part of that and not be on your game.
So we've alluded to the book, but let's formally get into it. It's called The Beastie Boys Book. Why now?
Well, on the fifth moon of the seventh month of...
Is in the seventh star.
Oh, you guys are not taking me seriously, and there's no mute button for this. Well, why now is because it was due like 2.5 years ago. And so we're 2.5 years late.
And
so
literally,
that's why
actually,
now.
Rapper time?
We started...
Still a
we're
rapper.
on our time.
Still a rapper.
And literally, we started on the idea, like conceptually, Yauch was still alive. Like that's when because Yauch had this idea of vision of... He was always obsessed with the movie, the Who documentary, The Kids Are All Right. And it was like he wanted to make a film thing like that. And then we started talking about like book. Oh, we should do a book also, And then obviously, whatever, when Yauch passed, it was such a tremendous loss. And we were so sad it was not something we were going to focus on for quite some time. And then we finally got around to it. And then, like everything, it took us a crazy long time to actually get it done.
How do you determine enough time has passed to mourn and to say, okay, let's revitalize this idea and get on it?
No, I don't know. I mean, I don't remember any like single event. Like we also went through a couple of false starts of like first we started like interviewing characters around the band, like especially Adam and I figured like, okay, that's a way to tell a story. And I think at that time we were kind of like afraid to get into it because it was going to be too sad for us or whatever. So that was a way to do it. And then we realized that's not the book that people are going to want from us. And then mourning people you love is a weird thing. Like if you get to a point where there was, I think, a nice opportunity for us, like Adam and I, to work together and then think about this person that had been such a big part of what we all did together and kind of try to make his voice be part of the whole project,
Do you feel over his passing yet? I say that respectfully.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? You have to continue with your life.
Sure.
You can't not do that.
Sure.
And certainly not to make light of it, but like we're people, and we've been through. Mike lost his dad when he was very young. I lost my mom when I was young, and not to make light of Adam, it's very different, and so you just maintain. Hopefully you have people in your family that you love that you can, lean on. You have your friends that you can lean on. You need to keep people around you. And so part of this book maybe was helpful for us to continue to hold on to Adam in some sort of way. I don't know.
Well, it was interesting just timing-wise for us that it was like we could embrace his voice and not have it be, I don't know, look, we're still going to miss him. We still love him. We still miss him. And I don't know that you can ever change that dynamic. But you can get to a point where it's like I look, I'm so grateful for the times we had more than being sad for where I'm at now.
Word.
It's a very weird relationship though because the three of us were together so much. Like you think about when you're with your friend and you hang out with your friend and then you go do whatever you're doing in your life. And then you see your friend again. But for us, we were friends that we would be together and then we would go to work, which was us still again. So we were always together. And so it definitely was, a long time and still is to think about like, wake up in the morning and be like, oh, okay, so what do we do now?
Mm. I know the book is chock full of stories, but is there like a quintessential Yauch moment that either one of you can share?
I mean, there's so many.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, how do you narrow
Just
it
the first
down?
thing that came to my mind is the first time Yauch ever came to my apartment. So I'm like 14 or 15. And we go to the deli across the street to get snacks before we go up to my house. I get like Wise chips and a Coke or something, and he gets Clamato and cottage cheese. I'm like, what fuck? Wait, what? And you're 15 years old.
Yeah, I was the only kid I knew to eat who
That's
knows?
gross.
Like I couldn't stand a sight of cottage cheese.
Yeah. So it wasn't like.
And he definitely was the only person to take that clam juice, tomato juice thing off the shelf. You know, blow the dust out.
It wasn't a competition between Brass Monkey and Cottage. And Clamato.
There's a big.
I can't even say it.
Clamato or Clamato? I don't even know.
Clamato. I know it sounds like an illness.
I was going to say sexually transmitted disease.
Yeah, pretty much. No. Brass Monkey and the clam juice thing are very similar because you think about it, like if you're, at the store.
Wait, how are they similar?
Well, no, because you look, you got to look down, and there's like Mad Dog, and then there's like Manischewitz, depending on the store.
Neighborhood, yeah.
And then there's Brass Monkey, and there's the Long Island, like all those bottles of booze at the bottom of the floor. Back in the 80s, like any shitty thing with some booze in it at the bottom of the deli, you'd grab, and we just grabbed Brass Monkey for some reason.
So there's not going to be any Beastie Boy music, or could that change? It just depends on.
No new Beastie Boys music.
Yeah, there's a lot, like any band, but probably actually more so than a lot of bands because we would spend a lot of time in the studio and also smoke a lot of pot. There's a lot of stuff that's made that might not have been as good or focused as it should have been.
We basically what he's saying is we had a studio in LA for a few years, and so we would record everything, and so we have like 100 hours of like stoner jams. That and in between those is like you can hear us playing basketball, or you can hear someone playing guitar with people playing basketball, or someone ordering food while the other people are talking about other stuff, and it's just hours and hours of music and bullshitting. And so at some point we're going to put that out, some of that out.
With no rhymes, just jam sessions.
Pretty much, I think. Unless we find some other...
I mean, there's also stuff with rhymes that never got... Whatever. I guess the point is there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been released that at some point could... But, it's not like there's any plan in terms of that.
But me and Mike are going to make like a new Beastie Boys record. But we do have several projects.
Wait,
a lot of projects.
Why is Mike laughing?
Because we actually have nothing going on. Absolutely nothing.
Mike, your children are in their teens?
Yep. Teen ages.
Stretch had told me, he was like, I can't imagine a world where someone thinks the Beasties are uncool, but
my house, come over to my house for sure.
I don't think they think the band is uncool. They just think that Mike is
that's
not
true.
cool.
Actually, that is true. They actually think you're a lot cooler than me. When I say like, oh, I'm like Adam's coming over, I'm working with Adam or something, they're like, oh, cool. Like they like you.
His kid, the first thing I hadn't seen him in a while, and he comes up to me on a fucking hoverboard, and he's like, dude, you got old.
My kids was like, I love them, they love me, but it's like, yeah, I'm definitely not cool.
I feel like you guys were able to remain cool, but become role models, disavowing the values or lack of values you espoused during License to Ill. Like,
let's not get crazy role models.
But role models is like more than anything else, like within our group of friends. Like you really got to check who your circle of friends are. You know what I mean? And especially for, we all can relate to this sort of thing, like public figure. A lot of times you push your actual friends kind of fall by the wayside because you want to go with these kind of people that'll be like, you're the shit and blah, blah, blah. And they, feed your ego and all that stuff. And so we were lucky enough, me, Adam, and Mike, to sort of be able to reflect on the dumber things that we said and did. I don't know how it happened, but we just did. And it was important to us to check each other, the three of us. And so within our group, some of those friends fell by the wayside that needed to fall by the wayside. And we were strong for each other, and we wanted to be role models for each other. There was no time where we got to say this stuff to teach these people about that or whatever. It's like we have to play our part to try to make things better in the world.
So we mentioned Def Jam earlier, which is co-founded by Russell Simmons, who of course is the subject of multiple allegations of sexual misconduct, assault. Now, of course, there's a lot of history here, but how do you reconcile that relationship with men that have these allegations around them?
It's an educating moment. It's a very important moment because it's also an educating moment like, oh, that dude he's crazy. He does this crazy stuff. And, if you actually figure out what the crazy stuff is, you're like, well, that's not just crazy stuff. That's illegal stuff. Like, you can't fuck around with that. And so you really have to now, there's a clear, like, line in the sand. Do you cross that line or you don't cross the line? You know what the line is now. Yeah. And you need to put your friends and your family up to that test. You know what I mean? You need to put each other up to that. And if you want to be on that other side of the line, then that's up to you. But I don't want to. And I think it's fucked up. And I'm going to stay on this side of it. And I'm going to make sure that my friends and my family, people that I love, try to do their best.
And of course, your father, playwright Israel Horovitz, there were allegations against him, and you were very public and definitive in your defense of the women. You really chose to stand behind them. Yeah. It was obviously a difficult place to be.
My dad obviously is a lot more difficult because he's my dad. I love my dad, but like in terms of me personally, it's difficult to find a balance of where you stand in it, what you accept, what you don't accept, how you process it all. It's very difficult, very intricate, and very tricky. And you know, I love my dad, but I can't deal with that. That's not me. I don't know how else do you say it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that's not an easy thing to talk about, so thanks for sharing. We will be right back after this break with the Beastie Boys and the Impression Session.
Bang, bang. Some things were meant for each other. Fries and milkshakes, selfies and duck face. And now, what's good with Stretch and Bobbito and Spotify? Yes, the same app that has millions of songs now also has thousands of podcasts.
On Spotify, you can listen to all your favorite shows and discover new ones. To subscribe to ours, search for What's Good with Stretch and Bobbito, tap follow, and get every new episode delivered to you.
Podcasts on Spotify. They're streaming right now. And now.
Election Day is just a few weeks away, and some are saying it could be a year of the woman. We're talking to Democrat Stacey Abrams and Republican Elizabeth Heng, two women trying to excite their parties in 2018. That's next time on It's Been a Minute from NPR.
Hi, it's Terry Gross, the host of Fresh Air. I just interviewed Melissa McCarthy.
This is what happens when you corner a rat. You corner me, I will chew through you. I'll chew through you.
Yikes, thank goodness she's not that way in person. You can find our interview in the Fresh Air feed.
And we're back. Oh, and we're hearing the drums. That means it's time for the Impression Session.
It's pretty simple. We're going to each play you a track. And
original.
That song I haven't heard since 1986. Dead serious, I haven't heard that.
I think it came out in 87.
Okay.
Yeah.
That actual
Paid in Full
song
came out as an album in 87? No, wait. I'm trying to think. Well, my melody, like Eric B. is president, and my melody was definitely
but the album came out in
earlier.
87.
That actual song that just played, I haven't heard that since whenever. It sounded to me like it was a weird remix. I was like, wait, Barry White is on this?
Yeah. No, it's true.
Like, I don't remember.
I'm bugging right now. Well, I picked the song, right, because your voice is sampled in it. Pump it up, homeboy.
But I've heard that exact same intro on like 7 different songs with the same kind of thing. I don't remember my voice being on Paid in Full. I'm dead serious. I don't know what to tell you.
Needs to cut you a check.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Clearly have not.
But we should get a lawyer to give me, you, and Lord Sear a check from the Beasties album.
And we'll take a commission on this one.
Yeah, we got a lot of legalities in this.
The reason I picked that was because I thought it was fascinating that Rakim, as someone who followed the 5% Nation, which
is a little odd,
has some controversial ideas about race and whatnot. I just love that there it was. Your voice prominently sampled on the beginning of that record. Clearly, you don't really remember this record.
I remember.
So I was going to ask you what that meant to you back then.
You know, my melody and
Eric B's president.
Though that single for me was the thing, and I have that album and I listened to the album. That Pump It Up Homeboy is someone played me. They were like, "Yo, this guy just put out a single. You got to check this out." And they gave me the single with my voice on it. That Pump It Up. Some dude named Ice-T in L.A. is a rapper, and he just made a single with your voice on it. And so back even before that, like that, there's a bunch of records with that. So it's definitely weird. But it's weirder that I don't remember that Rakim and Eric B.
I think what's weirder to me is hearing that record, and I haven't heard it in so long. Like, I knew it was Rakim's voice, but then I was like, it sounds like a backpack rap track. Like they were actually ahead of their time.
10 years.
Rakim is actually a guest on this show this season.
Mm.
I mean, I also really love that record. I think it's just phenomenal. So I'm glad you haven't heard it in a long time.
But for me at least, the single that came out before the record was like game-changing, life-changing. That meant everything.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. Yo, thanks so much for being on our show.
Thanks for having us, you guys.
Yo, seriously, it's been a long time coming, and we really appreciate you taking the time to hang with us and pump it up, homeboy.
Just don't stop.
Word up. Rest in peace, Adam Yauch.
Yep.
That's our show. This podcast was produced by Michelle Lanz, edited by Alexander McCall, Jordana Hochman, and Nigeri Eaton. Our executive producer is Abby O'Neill.
And if you dug the show, you can hear more at npr.org. Plus, bonus video content on Spotify on Fridays. While you're at it, please go to Apple Podcasts and rate, review, and subscribe. That's how we know you are listening.
And if you want to keep track of us via social media, our Twitter is Stretch and Bob, and our Instagram is Stretch and Bobbito.
Peace!